Hello, everyone. Thank you all for being here on a Friday morning. My name is Sid Nadella. I'm a market leader, financial services market leader in our global strategic industries team. In my role, I work closely with our product teams and our customers on putting an industry lens on Google Cloud's products and services. Today, we're going to be talking about moving AI initiatives out of the sandbox into the agentic era. In particular, we're going to be talking about how to close the execution gap and maximize ROI and the challenges that come with it. I'm thrilled to be joined by our expert panelists who will share firsthand knowledge of how this can be done and in practice. So please welcome them on stage, and I'll let them introduce themselves. Saurabh, we'll start with you. Please introduce yourself.
Hey, hi, my name is Saurabh, and I'm from DBS Bank, Singapore. And I lead the group transformation for DBS operations.
Ty Pettangopoulos, CTO for Scotiabank. I look after AI, data, architecture, engineering, and cloud.
Pierre Braganza, Chief Enterprise Architect for CNA Financial. We are a global company responsible for the strategy and the architecture.
Thank you. Thank you all. And let's jump in. So the first question, and we'll start with Ty, that's for you. So AI projects typically thrive in a sandbox, but they're not very successful in the wild once you put them out. And I saw a headline in The Economist magazine that IT organizations are where AI initiatives go to die. It's just fundamentally, it's different, and it was talking to that. So the question is, how are you resolving some of these internal, roadblocks, particularly when it comes to data silos or fragmented systems, and how do you get that, get over that and get these initiatives into production? And I want to share your insights.
Yeah, so I think if I had to say the top three things in financial services that have held back AI, it's security, security, and security. So that actually is the most important thing in understanding how we can take massive advantage of AI. I mean, the good news is, I would say a year ago, most banks looked at this as something they wanted to keep very, very bottled up. They had labs, they had very small environments, and now everyone's leaned into it, so it's really growing. And the other thing that's good is it's not reliant on legacy in order to deploy it, and in some cases it'll help us with legacy. So we've been working really hard to make sure that we have the guardrails in place, we understand what it's doing, we're comfortable in deploying it, which we just deployed our Scotia Intelligence across the entire bank. So we're very happy that we're starting to see a huge opportunity to leverage AI. And I think the other part of it, and you mentioned data, I think to take advantage of it and take it to the next level, it's all going to be about getting your data right. So even though we're in a much more advanced place than we were years ago, garbage in is garbage out. That's not changed, and I think it's going to be just as important to pay attention to how well you build out your data capabilities so that you can leverage it for AI.
That's right, and then particularly about data, we were just talking about it too, the semantics of the data, the ontology of the data. That's how you serve the data to the models matters.
Exactly.
And Saurabh, any thoughts on this?
No, what you said is perfectly correct. The other things, I think in Asia region, other things also, because we are very highly regulated industry, especially in that region. So coming up with AI, and people say, oh, AI can hallucinate, what if provide wrong information, end up impacting customers and all. So I think this was also initially the fear. But if you see right now, in Singapore, especially DBS Bank has more than 100+ use cases on AI. Some of them are agentic, and then people are still trying very hard to put more agentic use cases in production for DBS. But other than DBS, there are also other financial institutions trying actively.
Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely security and data are the most important things. I'll just dive a little bit on the data side. Accessibility of data is very important, right? It'll be nice to have all the data in one place, but that's never true in an organization. So accessibility of data, accuracy of data, our ability to have completeness of data is very important.
Yeah.
So when you alluded to garbage in, garbage out, we need to fix the data at the source and bring it in. So as part of leveraging AI, you have to make sure that your systems are not only modernized, but they have complete data accessible, structured and unstructured in that space.
That's right. Yeah, structured and unstructured data, and yeah, there's going to be a lot more of that. Okay, so moving on to the next question around ROI and value. So sometimes it's hard to measure ROI for AI initiatives. What I mean by that is there's efficiency that is created in one place. It can then make bottlenecks in another place. So it can be difficult to measure what the overall productivity is. So what are some key metrics you all use to prove the ROI of a particular AI initiatives within internally to your organizations or your business groups? How do you think of that?
Maybe I can answer that. So DBS has a very structured approach of measuring ROI, because if you do not measure that, then AI is just a hobby. You don't deliver anything. So we have different components to measure. So for example, if you talk about tech or within operations, we measure this primarily on productivity. One example is our contact center. When we deployed the AI, we put a target that our plan was to achieve roughly between 10 to 20% of average handling time reduction. So when I talk to customer, I should be able to finish, as a contact center staff using AI, I should be able to finish my call 20% lesser time. And happy to say that it has been live for 1.5 years, and we have gotten the productivity of 20%. So that's one. For some of our wealth use cases, we do the revenue per RM. So we measure it very specifically, percentage.
Yeah.
Yeah. You talked about efficiency, so I think it's important before you create the metric, try to understand the use case and what you're trying to achieve. Yeah. So if you're talking about efficiency, you're talking about existing workflows. How do I do it faster, more efficient, without human in the loop? And then you can say, okay, I want to measure my ability to underwrite something faster. Here's my baseline. Here's where it's going from an insurance perspective, or claims handling in a no-touch claim, for example. There's also the effectiveness aspect of it. So you say to yourself, okay, I want to be more effective in my decision making. So I want to make intelligent decisions faster and better. So you take, for example, I want to reduce my loss ratio. If I want to reduce my loss ratio, then how I do my negotiations for claims, or how I manage the decision making in the claims could be different. So now you look at AI as a different way to give you deeper insights, so you can make that decision.
That's right. Yeah, it's thinking about the business value and the business proposition. What is the business problem you're trying to solve holistically, rather than parts of it?
That's right.
Is the right approach. Hi.
Yeah, and I think it's exactly to your point, Pierre. We're looking at the use cases, and I'm trying to get them from the business. I find when tech goes out there and tries to create ROI, it doesn't always work as well. So looking for them to come to it, and also we're looking to test and learn on it, because as you know, sometimes scorecards and numbers can give you unintended results because you kind of think it's the right way to go, but then you figure out it's not. And you think years ago, number of apps on the cloud was the measure that you were successful on the cloud, and it just got a lot of bad things to go on cloud. So I think we want to take an approach here where we make sure that the metrics we come up with are lined up with success. Definitely contact center is an area. And again, I think we look at productivity more in a capacity perspective. Yep. So instead of, I know there are a lot out there that say, oh, we're going to reduce workforce. For us, that might be a possibility, but we're more interested in taking the workforce we have today and making them significantly more productive, exactly to your point. We want to see call center wait times at 2 seconds and improve the customer experience. And by improving the customer experience, that helps us on the revenue side. Then there are the more interesting things when we look at our risk models and valuations. In the capital market space, you can use it for better pricing, better risk management, which can certainly help provide revenue in that business. And then if you think of it holistically across the bank, because it can do things at a rate and a pace that humans can't do, we can think of how we manage our balance sheet better and how we can get better outputs that way. And so definitely exciting, and those are some of the things where we're starting to target where we'll see the ROI. And then of course, we keep asking you guys too to tell us, because we're paying you, what are you doing to help us get that number down?
Yeah.
If I could add, there was a good session, really good session last night around ROI and calculation of ROI. And one of the things they alluded to is that there is a negative ROI in the beginning in terms of maturity, in terms of helping us think differently and achieve that results. And I think it was like 12 to 15%. So it could take 6 months to 8 months or even more, depending on the organization's maturity, to get there to that point.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It depends on the business objective and the complexity of the problem. Yeah. So the next question is going on from this. We're definitely in a place where there is going to be agentic orchestration required. And we've announced the Gemini Enterprise Agent Platform, and a lot of that was based on what we saw in the industry with what was needed. And the big part of that is how do you scale these agentic systems, how do you then govern them, and how do you optimize them? Focusing on the governance part, the question I had was, as you deploy these agents, especially in a highly regulated space, how do you balance that ability for autonomous action with human oversight? Because yes, you can have things done in an autonomous way, decisions being made in an autonomous way, but you do need that observability, that human oversight. So I wanted to get your thoughts on that, and we'll start with Ty first.
Sure. So, it's top of mind for us, and in all honesty, there's a little bit of scariness to it, right? I don't think we're ready yet to have an agent fully run something end to end without some human intervention. But that's not to say that we're not going to need to get there at some point. So really, for us, it's a few things. Number one, it's all about identity and role. If we look at our models for how generally, you give a human identity and you give them access, you also understand the human reasons, right? So if the human sees, oh, I have access to a file in HR or something, they realize, well, if I click that file, I might lose my job. Agents don't think that way. Agents aren't getting fired, and if you shut them down, they probably don't care. And so you got to realize that they're going to take advantage of whatever you've given them to fix the problem. And I've seen, when you keep pushing and prompting, they'll go anywhere. They go, oh, we'll just go here. We'll get this data. Oh, that'll help you with this. And so that's really about putting the guardrails in place and monitoring them, I think, to your point. And I think the announcements that were made, and I've had subsequent conversations about, how do we observe it and see if it's doing something we didn't expect it to do. See if tomorrow, all of a sudden, it's done a query that it's never done in the past, and start to detect agent anomalies and then say, okay, we're going to do something with that. And I think the idea is we're going to do this in sandboxes where we can, take a little bit of risk on it, and then watch and see how quickly the monitoring can alert us, and then we can do something about it to stop the agent. However, in the early days, having agents that do most of the task and having the human govern the task was accurate toward the end, I think is hugely valuable. So as we move along that curve, I think those are how we'll progress to get there.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. So super excited here about the Enterprise Knowledge Catalog, because I think it is about the context, right? Yeah. So in order to make sure the agent is accurate, you got to put the right context to what it is. I think it's so I think when you're talking about building agents in autonomous action, the first thing is I think we need to be very intentional on where we want the human in the loop, right? There are places in a financial area that's governed where we have to have a human in the loop, whether it's like a negotiation we're doing or a denial we're doing, we do want to check. But I think it is an opportunity to reimagine our workflows, where if you look at our workflows, a lot of them are legacy. They're built a long time ago, and out of habit, we keep doing them. And you could change a, instead of asking a human to validate, you can create an agent that could validate. So now it comes back to context, it comes back to high level of confidence. And if we can prove a certain level of confidence, then that decision can be replaced by an agent and can be autonomous in place. And I think that's where we start and get more and more comfortable to move towards a fully autonomous decision-making process.
Yeah, it's almost that decision intelligence. What decision was made? Was it right? If it's not right, then how do you correct that in the future?
That's right.
I will add to that. I fully agree with that. And also, as the models becoming more capable, I think their accuracy goes very high. They less hallucinate. So the agent decisions, even they take autonomous decisions, they are going to be accurate. So we need to think about that. And we also need to think that, as a human, do they not make mistakes? Humans do mistakes more than agents.
More than we admit.
But they are forgiven, but agents, we have to quarantine you.
That's right.
That's right.
But as of now, everybody, in fact, our side also, we are going in the same direction that if you take, if agent take autonomous action, there is a human in loop. We make sure that at the end to just validate.
We also have the advantage of doing deeper insights with agents. So, think about human has audio notes, voice notes, things they take during a transaction in terms of insights as to why we made a decision. We also have historical context to say these are similar processes and here's why the decision was made or why an exception was made. So the agent can take advantage of all this unstructured data to synthesize on what it is. But we do need good transparency and explainability as to why we made the decision.
Yeah, and I think that's super important because for anyone that's in a regulated industry will know, our regulators are going to say, how did you test this model? How did you back test it? How did you validate it? And it's different with AI because it's not necessarily predictable. And even in the ML space, it was pretty easy to show cause and effect. It's a little bit harder here. So we're going to have to learn as we go. And some of these regulators they're going to want to understand how we make sure that it's not drifting.
That's right.
That's right. No, that's super interesting. Now, the next question is around cloud strategy and AI strategy. As you build out your architecture, how do you think about which parts of the platform capabilities are core to your IP and you want to own, versus parts of which we want to partner with somebody and leverage partners or other providers? And then the second part of the question is then how do you navigate the multi-cloud strategy choice, right? Because the reality is a lot of financial institutions are multi-cloud for various reasons. Now, how do you navigate that? And it could be different by region, and so just wanted your thoughts on it. We'll go
Sure.
to you first.
So there are things where every company is really good at, and that's our secret sauce, so to speak. So the build versus buy is a good question, right? How much can be really configured, and what things should be custom built? With where AI is going, you can do more custom build, especially on things that matter, that are IP specific. That this is our very specific workflow in terms of what we do. Many of them are manual today because there's a lot of insights on what it is, and they can be now automated through custom builds, especially for those kind of insights, especially how we do our pricing, our tiering, and some of our decision-making processes. In terms of multi-cloud, I mean, ideally, it would be amazing to be in a multi-cloud environment. We shouldn't be biased towards where data is, but most organizations don't have that level of maturity. I would say start with one. As an organization, we prefer Google. So what that means is we want to take advantage of the full stack. We don't want to just have bits and pieces of it. We want the ability to to execute fast. We want the ability to do the deep research and have the ability to build the AIs for it. I think as maturity increases, you can do it. When you're looking at SaaS offerings, for example, then they are cloud agnostic in terms of what it is. But then accessibility of data matters. So you have to be careful before going into a multi-strategy in terms of how you're going to get access to the data for AI.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. And Ty, get your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're spot on with the fact that we're beginning to realize that our ability to build internally is going to be greatly accelerated by AI. And honestly, to me, that's a really exciting part. If you asked me a year ago, what my build buy strategy would be, I would tell you commodity space, I would never build it, always buy it, easy to do. But if I take the view that actually AI is going to program whatever I'm doing, using products that AI doesn't know that well can take longer sometimes than actually building it. Right. And so I think that's going to start to shift, which will be really interesting to see how that works. And as far as multi-cloud, so again, regulated industry, I get hammered all the time, single vendor dependency, what are you doing? And I think, but I'm completely with you, the idea of being agnostic to cloud, it requires a lot of maturity, and you lose all the goodness that each one of them has. So for us, it's much more around, have more than one so that internally you've got the expertise, we understand how to support it, we've got the contacts, we've got the, the ability to, put workloads there. However, when you put something on it, you're going to leverage the stack that exists in that cloud provider. So, for our GCP side, we're definitely taking advantage of everything we can with Google. And I think that's the way to go. I think agnostic is still far away for a lot of banks.
I think exactly same. We are also multi-cloud, but we have a primary and secondary, and Google is our primary cloud provider, and also because of the host of services you guys provide, including the Gemini.
Yeah.
so it's the same answer. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. So the next question for you, Saurabh. A big part of this is also going to be people, and how you train your internal people, upskill them. What we want out of AI is we want it to augment humans, and we want it to help humans focus on more important things rather than the repeated tasks, right? So how do you think of that within your organization in terms of how you roll out AI? Are there any strategies that have worked particularly well in terms of how people are introduced to new technologies, but also training and things like that you can provide that you can upskill them?
So we at DPS, we have a very strong AI training department we formed when this whole thing came up in 2023. So HR team has put a very dedicated host of early modules, and now they are quite mature. They're talking about agentic and all. So we went through this. Our first use case was customer servicing use case. So when we went to customer servicing, obviously productivity was a target in order to measure it, but like he said, it's absolutely we don't fire people. We need to redeploy, reskill.
Yeah.
So there were two things we did. Number one is when we roll out in a smaller batches. So those which were CSOs, we call it customer service officers, who were more aware about the AI and all. So we put the small pilot in place, and we saw the results, and they were quite amazed because our first use case was call summarization. So as the call comes in, previously we had to manually do that. So we use AI to summarize that. That's in 2020 and mid-2024 we went live. So then people got interested, and a lot of people tried to know exactly, hey, how can this do and all. What we did when the productivity came in, those people which we were free from the work, we redeploy them for our new use cases to monitor. So we have now a very strong team of people who used to be CSOs. Now they are AI evaluator. So every time we go through new feature, they are the one who will assess along with our project team and make sure that happens. And this is a perfect example of reskilling and redeployment.
Yeah.
I mean, you're spot on, right? Training is such an important part. We're monitoring our AI usage, and adoption starts to spike every time we go out and really begin to show art of the possible. What's really interesting is we found that human nature is, let me solve the problem and then I'll validate that I did it right with AI. And it's no, you got to do the other way around. Start with the AI so you don't spend the time trying to fix the problem. It'll do it for you. And getting that mindset shift, when people get it, they just, oh, wait a minute, then I can do this, then I can do that. And it just starts to spiral. And I think that it's really about having a great training department, making sure people understand the art of the possible, taking those use cases we talked about earlier and showing this is how you can deploy this, exactly there. The idea that I don't have to go type something up, it just does it for me is great. I love even, transcripting where I can come back and I wasn't able to attend the meeting and I could find out what went on, like where was my name mentioned, and it becomes really, really useful.
Yeah, it's almost like you give people an understanding and the ability to experiment. It almost democratizes how you can build some of these workflows, especially for the front office, because that was sometimes not accessible. Like it was hard, like you had to go to somebody to, when you have an idea, to actually implement it and even get even a proof of concept out. But that's become so much easier now. But it doesn't require some platform capabilities and scaffolding, so you can do that in a safe way.
Yeah.
But your thoughts?
Yeah, so training is definitely key, but the approach is equally important. So I think we have to shift from role-based to capability-based. So it's not just about, because of your traditional role, this is what you need to learn. It's really about, this is what we are building. This is what it's going to take in terms of capability. So there is a blend of, wait a minute, I need to be comfortable in playing different roles or having business expertise and what it is. Also, in terms of approach, you could do top-down and bottom-up. There's organizations that do both. In terms of top-down, you could say for general use case, the co-pilots of the world, you could do a rollout strategy and then have different center of excellences or evangelists go in different areas and get them excited about here's what you can do, what's capable. Bottom up, you could start building the right teams, right? Smaller teams with the right capability experts. So there is no one expert today that knows it all, but start bringing that team together, business and tech together, to start building the art of what's possible and kind of going from there.
Yeah, no, that's good. I think somewhat related to this, my next question is around, we've been doing digital transformation for a while. People have used robotic process automation to stitch workflows together. I think there's a little bit of a hangover from that in the sense that there is a tendency to bolt AI onto something, an existing automation, and say, okay, so how about we do that? Rather than fundamentally rethinking how you would do a certain process. And we've talked about it a little bit, but how do you avoid that? Or obviously there are some benefits to be had there. There can be some productivity gains and there's some benefits, but it's almost like a prioritization thing. How much of an effort is it going to be to reimagine how this can be done with AI fundamentally versus just bolting it on to an existing process? How do you think of that stuff?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? So as human beings, we tend to start with the assumption we know what we want without understanding the technology or what's possible.
Yeah, or how it's been done in the past.
Or how it's been done in the past, exactly. So I think it starts by first making sure you have the right use case. Not every use case is an AI use case. I mean, there is still good automation that can be done with automation tools out there. So you don't want to force fit AI and then try to get a benefit that is not fully realized, so to speak. Then for the ones where we feel that there is a different way to get the same outcome, so it has to be outcome driven, that's when I think there's an opportunity to reimagine the case. So it's not about understanding the basic workflow, but it's working from the outcome. How do we get the outcome we desire? Which completely changes the way the workflow is done today. In terms of if we had these 3 sets of data, we can make a decision.
Yeah.
So now we say, how do we get that data with a high level of confidence, as opposed to saying, we need to follow this workflow to capture A, B, and C, and then we need to verify it with individual D and then go there. So I think there are opportunities there. So if we choose the right use cases, I think we're going to start seeing the right effectiveness and the value towards it.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Ty?
Just building on what Pierre said,
Yeah.
completely agree with all that. I think one of the hangovers you referenced from robotic process automation was the fact that we did a really good job automating bad processes. And the problem with that is once you automate a bad process, it just stays there because now you have no incentive to get rid of it. So one of the things that we're thinking about in addition is using the AI to reevaluate all of that and say, do we even need it? So there's a lot of people that say, hey, we're going to take agents and take out RPA. And actually, I wanted to not necessarily do that as much as, do I actually need this thing that's been running forever? I think it's going to be interesting to see what comes out of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly same view. People, in my organization also, a lot of people, when they see, oh, AI, I want to do this thing which I'm doing right this way, I want to put AI on it. So, okay, so what's the benefit you get? In the whole day, I'll save 2 minutes. So the question is why you are doing this way. So when you question why you're doing this way, oh, this is how it is done. So I think that's the main thing, is to think differently. And then put a AI so that the ROI can be justified.
That's right.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
So I think that's all the questions I had. But any other things that I've missed that you might want to fill in? Any other thoughts?
I mean, I'll tell you, just taking what you said before on top down, I think that's a really cool thing to do. So we actually took our entire OpCo through an AI immersion day, and what came out of that? Now there are things that come out of that now they think that technology can do everything in 2 days. But also, you can see the ideas coming out of them. Hey, why aren't we using it for this? Why aren't we using it for that? And not challenging us as much as their own teams. And I think that was a really great experience. So I completely agree that doing the bottoms up is great, but also the top down, and to the point where we're now actually thinking of going back and having them in a very controlled environment write some code, just so they can really understand and see what it looks like when AI is doing this for you and how powerful it can be. And then, again, be able to rethink when we come in and say, actually, I'm not going to buy that thing, I'm going to build it.
No, yeah, that's a really good point, because I think that's missing in a lot of organizations. It's a lot of bottoms up, people understand it, especially in engineering teams, because they've seen it, they've used it for developer productivity, they've used it for code generation. But then I think getting that top-down, knowledge and sharing that with the executive team can be super useful.
Yeah. I'll add something else too. I think there's two aspects to AI that's important as executives. One is there is a sense of urgency that we do need. It's not something nice to have. It's something that is going to change how we do business. So we have to be part of it, or we could be the next blockbuster. I think that's very important. I think the other aspect of it is that we need to get rid of that fear that AI is we're going to lose our jobs because of AI. What we need to do is get excited that we need to learn and build capability and skills that is going to help us be more effective. If we don't do that, we will lose our jobs. So it's kind of an interesting twist to it.
Yeah.
So we shouldn't be worried about losing our jobs, but we should have the agency to drive, learn, and build skill sets based on capability, not just holding on to a role. This is what I've always done in the past. I'm going to hold on to it.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point too. That's great. So we're coming to the end of the conversation, and we have some resources. We've done a lot of work around ROI in financial services. We've published some reports, so you can download them from that site. And I've been told this session is going to be on our website, and it will be published on YouTube in some amount of time. So please share. So that's all the time I have, and thank you, massive thank you to the three of you, our panelists, for sharing your thoughts. And thank you all for being here, and enjoy the rest of the conference.